All right, everyone. If you've been here before, you know what we're doing next. If you are new, grab your remote, have that trigger thumb on the play button, but do not hit it yet. We're going to do it at the count on the count of 3 all together. 1, 2, 3. I guess 51 seconds might have been like a second or two, a little too far. That's probably why, Sarah, you said, is it 51 or 49?
Yeah, it picks up like literally in the middle.
It's okay.
Throw some money at it. She has a point.
What did Richard expect?
It's interesting because it kind of is like a 180 for Lorelai, because early on she did seem kind of desperate, like, what are we gonna do? We have to figure this out, right? And now that she's gotten some distance from it, she's thinking a little differently. I don't know.
I think
maybe
she had a plan, and it didn't involve throwing money at the situation. It involved, rational conversation and teaming up with them, and they threw her plan out the window. So now she's not interested in whatever it, now they're realizing, oh wow, this is really a problem. She's like, yeah, I told you that. So it's not my issue anymore.
I feel like now that she's accepted it. Also.
But why couldn't they talk to her now?
That wasn't what he was proposing, though.
Yeah, but I mean, she could have come back at him and like, I don't like your idea, but how about this?
Yeah, I think they're not addressing. Yeah, they're not addressing what happened with Mitchum, and I really think that's what they need to do from the beginning. So focus on that, have a rational conversations, not focus on money.
I agree.
Yeah.
I love that line. I was there when she was turning nothing.
Ugh. This is a bummer.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Definitely.
Breaks my heart.
Mine too.
She's so strong. I feel like I would crack by now as the mom.
How old do you think she was when they made that plan?
Maybe like 16 or 17 or something.
Is it possible she was 21?
Ooh, this is a good parallel.
Oh, that's a good point. Is that you, Sandra, that said that?
Yeah,
What in the
maybe
world?
she's 21.
This is a good parallel.
What is going on here?
Remember Rory's 16th birthday.
This is crazy.
Yeah, Madeline Albright.
Well, think about it. Remember her 16th birthday?
Whoa, that was wild. That was really cool.
I told you.
Yep.
I was just like, huh, okay.
I love this too.
I love the fall episode.
Oh, the fall's the best.
Halloween.
Does anyone know exactly how tall Babette and Rory are?
Just clutching that bag.
Making out and clutching the bag. So
I feel like the bag from the previous episode was like, oh, never mind. Just
Sally Struthers is 5'1". And Ted
What are they
Rooney
saying?
is 6'6".
oh my god.
I don't remember my 21st birthday. Well, majority of it.
I had it in mind like it was yesterday.
Well, I was drunk for most of it.
I went out to dinner with my family because I didn't like alcohol at that point in my life.
I was living away from home, but me and my childhood friend talked about doing what they talk about doing at 21, like going somewhere to a casino and playing 21, but we never.
That collar, the whole seam, it's so strange to me.
On Logan?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the style.
I don't remember the frayed look being in, but that doesn't mean much.
It's called tweed.
So if she's remembered since kindergarten, she was about 5. So Lorelai was about 21 or 22.
Oh, yeah, you called it.
Yeah, she was 5 or 6. Yeah.
Oy, oy.
Oh my gosh, that was so ADR. Oh my goodness. That was
Yeah, the ADR was pretty
Jeez.
powerful there. Like, and you could really notice it because they ADR'd right in the middle of his line, which is actually not very common. You usually get the whole thing over it.
Something must have happened to that mic or something. That just seems like a backache waiting to happen.
I wish I had a cake on my 21st birthday and did a cake testing like this. But I always have my future wedding.
Those cakes look so yummy.
She really does not care.
She doesn't.
Speaking of gym fizzes, if y'all saw my picture on the Facebook group, the best gym fizz I've ever had.
Oh, that's scary. I trust you completely. Jeez, Emily.
Yeah, that was cringy.
Very.
Very 2000, sort of like, ooh, she said Asian instead of woman.
I saw the hoopah.
I love Cat Cat.
Me too.
So creepy.
Poor Mary. Oh my goodness.
Now, John, much like getting doused in water, would you get paid more for this?
Paid for what? For just having a pretend noose around your neck?
I mean, I would want to.
Well, there's wanting and actually being able to get that, and I don't think that they would. No. What's the whole point of what's the whole thing of hanging caramel apples? You just hang them from your tree and then kids just take them?
Yeah.
I guess so.
Yeah, they're making fun of her that it's lame, or that was.
Because that sounds delicious.
Seems like a good idea to me.
To me too.
I think she's trying to be festive, kind of maybe cheer herself up over missing Rory's birthday.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm from Bellevue, but probably not the Bellevue Sheets. Okay.
Do you think that Lorelai's trying to compensate for the fact that she can't do the Atlantic City thing with Rory, so now she wants something to report to?
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah,
I've been thinking that for
Just-
years.
to cheer herself up.
She
But do
looks
you
so
also
sad
think
saying
that-
it too.
Do you think that Emily's trying to make Rory's party into Lorelai's?
Possibly.
I
Yes.
think Emily's just being Emily.
Oh, for sure.
I think that if she throws a party, she's going to do it her way.
I always thought that it was Emily trying to be Lorelai's, like, it was making Rory Lorelai's stuff. I mean, parties and everything.
Just imagine it being her 16th, you know, it's just like that. She's just Emily.
The chicken's been cooking for a long.
Gotta cook it low and slow.
How many times is Rory gonna wear that?
I think it's the evening now from when we saw her.
Yeah, I think they went
Oh.
out for dinner, and this is after dinner.
Okay. Tweet just looked all the same when that was popular. It's so
Yeah, that's
awkward when
different
they
jacket.
kiss.
That's just an outer jacket.
Yeah. With like a chevron. pattern.
Busted.
Weird.
Meyer, you were looking through the window.
My grandma would never.
I feel bad for Richard. I mean, I get that a lot of this is his fault, but I could just see him. He's really trying to figure this out,
Yeah.
and
Me
he's not doing a very good job.
No, not at all. His heart is
I
completely.
agree 100% with you, John.
No, and he went to Lorelai for support, and she just shut him down. And Emily has a different train of, different motivation. He does.
Her hair's still kind of big this season. Like a
It's,
different
it's
kind of
too
big.
helmety.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Josh helmet.
You did not. The freaking blinds were closed and when you came in, they were like trimmed. I feel like Superman now.
When they say getting ready to take that step, do they think that she's never had sex?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
And she's with an experienced man of the world, so they're worried
Yep.
about her.
I think I just find it harder to believe that she's been sneaking Logan in and out of that place this whole time, and they never noticed that he was staying over.
I don't think they really paid attention. I don't think Richard's senses were up until that run-in with Mitchum, and until that all happened. And I think now he's taking a look at everything and stepping back.
Oh, he was definitely in denial that anything happened.
Oh my god.
Yum.
Sounds like my husband's favorite dinner.
I haven't had pot roast in what seems like probably 10 years.
I love pot roast.
Me too.
Those rolls look so good.
To combat the hunger that I feel from this table, I ordered McDonald's.
I'm already triggered by this man.
Irish butter is the bomb.
Irish soda bread is really good too.
Yes,
With
it is.
that.
You know, what's interesting is that like this really shows us how out of touch they really are with Rory. You know, as much as we sort of are feeling like, oh, Rory fits into this world really well. Like this is an example of how they're very out of touch with who she is.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Absolutely.
And the fact that this is how they would choose to like broach it or deal with it is just, it's hilarious.
Part of me is surprised that they would even discuss it or even mention it.
Well, they're not. They're having him do it, which is a very
I don't
wild.
need-
Right.
I do not need
Hold
some
on, guys.
middle-aged man coming in.
But it's also funny
We're very
because it's
much
not
in
like they're
denial.
religious.
I know.
This is funny.
Sarah, I was thinking that
This is
too.
funny.
Oh.
Probably in Fiji.
Hence
but-
my tweet.
Love
That was a
it.
good line.
He wouldn't like the ending of that.
No.
Is she working at the zoo now?
I've noticed that on her back.
Community
Work
service.
everywhere.
She mentioned that she was waiting for the zoo to go for us spot to open.
Yeah, and she was
She looks
handed
very
by
suki like here.
because of
I
the
don't know how
bandana.
many times I've rewatched this whole series, and I cannot believe I just now noticed that.
She's channeling Emily with those extreme, like, high waist pants.
It's a one-piece coverall.
Is it? It looks like two pieces. That's
No,
all.
it's a one-piece coverall. I mean, it's got that the stitching, cinching in the center, but it's all one piece.
She's acting like such a child here.
Well, she's not taking any responsibility for her part in all of this.
Not
But
at
also,
all.
also the comment, we're paying for this. Like, Rory's not paying for anything.
You know what's funny is
That line cracks me up.
it's very similar to something Emily would say, but Emily's upset that Rory said. Yeah.
Yeah, her angry just sounds like a 5-year-old. I don't quite
God, I
understand
don't.
that. I never liked that. I always thought
That was a funny part, guys.
Total temper tantrum.
The invitation fairy.
that's my favorite line that she called.
Concerned dad mode activate.
I never even knew she know how to say it.
She called.
She called and yelled at me. The last time Lorelai says, but she called it such a mom thing. It's like, we're back.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of. There's hope there. Oh, they're both up at that time.
Yeah.
Sad Lalas.
That sushi looks good.
Yeah. This episode is making
Why did
where's
people
she
have
yesterday?
such an issue with sushi for honestly? Also, what if she wrote the house smelling like raw fish? If sushi is fresh, it does not smell like at all.
If fish smells fishy, it means it's bad.
Yeah, it's been old. It's not good to eat, really. That dress is not that. Yeah, no, I don't.
Tia should have made her drink.
The Jessie.
Yeah, I should have made it tonight. I forgot about this part. I bet yours tastes better though.
I'm sure
It didn't
does.
taste pink. It tasted really good.
Well, we all got toasted real fast.
Oops. Wait, she just said I have to check on the cake, but the pig is behind Rory.
But Logan does not actually have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just such a
Dean
weird
actually
line.
has
Yeah.
I think she just has a race Dean. She's like, as she should.
it. Hey, where's
I
Brian?
love
Where's
Lane.
Brian?
I
You
know.
weren't invited.
The Asian
Oh,
friend
Brian
didn't have
did
a
not
friend.
get
She had a
invited.
boyfriend.
Brian not get an invitation?
Brian
No,
didn't
you weren't
get
They didn't
invited.
invite the whole
No.
band.
Where's Gil?
Brian gets to sleep in Lane's room, so he's not here.
The band could have played.
Do you think Emily would have actually let that happen?
Oh my gosh,
No.
imagine the band playing this party.
Oh hell no.
I was totally wearing Lane's dress.
Zach.
I love her.
Oh, that's a great line.
So you're rich?
It wasn't even a question. It was just a statement.
I always thought they should have invited Suki as well because Emily even went to her wedding and
Yeah,
Yeah.
we grew up around her.
Agreed.
I'm surprised Emily didn't have her put like that edible glitter in there or something.
Ugh.
But didn't get an invite.
Right.
So.
They know
Why
that
should-
they're together. Rory knows that they're engaged. Why wasn't he invited?
I love Lorelai's dress.
Me too.
I'm a
Me
girl. I
three.
like green, Emily. Suck on that.
Wait, does Emily know they're engaged?
No, Rory does though.
Right.
Or a Care Bear. Care Bear steak.
Paris was great.
Paris was at the Sweet 16. She knows that Emily throws parties with great food because she commented on it. Why would she think that the food would stink?
She's had a
She's
reawakening since her high school days.
You lost the net in the beginning of I think season 1.
That's what I was thinking. They met back in high school.
Oh, it had to have been later because it was when Jess was there. So season 2.
Man, I'm trying to figure out where this all started. Like where this, because now it feels like it's gotten so, the knot has gotten so tight that undoing it is gonna be really difficult.
Correct.
But I want to sort of understand like what it is that has what it was that sort of started it, and then what has caused it to get tighter and tighter.
This is so funny to me. People like gagging over sushi because I grew up eating like raw fish like a lot.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Hey, she didn't say jalapeno.
Love that she's the riffraff food.
I love Paris and Doyle.
But that background sound Olivia just like glared at Scott.
Love that he gave a family heirloom to her.
Very sweet.
And it wasn't as bad as some of his awkward hugs were.
And her awkward hugs too.
True. Something else that was mentioned many times earlier. Why does he not remember what it is? Don't you congratulate the groom and say best wishes to the bride?
That's what I was thinking. Oh, she knew where he was at.
Maybe he should have listened to Lorelai in the first place.
Yeah, he's right.
Technically, it's under the pool house roof, but you know.
Well, that's still his house.
Slap in the face.
On that note,
Ooh.
There were many reasons Emily's one of my absolute least favorite characters. There's one.
Yeah, I just can't get past the stuff that she pulls. Sure sounded like it though.
Stop.
She will never live that down.
Aww.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. So
Oh
heartbreaking.
my goodness,
my
this
God.
is really intense.
Yep.
Oh, ouch.
Heartbreaking.
Yes, it is.
Oh, this is cute.
Yeah.
He just absolutely loves her.
Yeah.
Well, he supports her too.
And button on the episode. Whew. Wow.
Feel a little teary out there,
Okay.
John?
This
You hanging in there, John?
this season does not let up. This season does not let up.
No, it does not.
This is a tough one for sure.
And it's only episode 7.
Yeah. Oh wow. So it gets harder, huh?
Oh,
Oh yeah.
Possibly.
Just a little.
Well, there's this whole thing.
Harder
There's
than
this whole
understatement.
thing is that like Amy had a plan with like what she was doing with this season that she said she like she doesn't really get a chance to resolve because of everything that happened with season 7. So it's very interesting when you think about it from that lens about like
Ooh.
what
It's like
what
she
was
put
doing with
everything
all of
she
this.
wanted. It's like she put everything she wanted into season 6.
Jeez. Well, I like season 6. I like it a lot.
Okay.
I really do. I like it. I think it's such good writing.
You're
It's
here
just
for the
really,
you're here
really.
for the drama.
It's a
Yeah.
good season, but it's so tough to watch.
Yeah, it's a hard it's a hard season, but you know what I mean? Like it's good. And I actually would probably argue that it's what makes people love the characters even more, because that kind of heartbreak, is part of part of the attachment that we have, I think, to the characters. I feel like I'm developing a way stronger like relationship to the two of them through this period of separation. It's almost like you don't know what you had until it's gone, kind of thing. And sort of like a sense that like maybe I was sort of taking their relationship for granted, and now that it's separated, I miss it a lot, and that's just powerful writing, and that there's no question in my mind that influences how I feel about the characters. And I mean, you're scaring me a little bit, like with this whole like Amy not resolving things, whatnot, because my hope is that I at least get some resolution with these characters before the end of the season. But
Yeah, no, it's not just this issue that's an issue, but I think that like knowing what happens with the writers, like which was something I didn't know when I watched the show the first time. And I think it was something I only realized like rewatching and listening to Gilmore Guys, kind of everything that had gone down there, and how I'm not gonna, no spoilers. I just will be. I'm more curious on your opinions of season 7. I think this one is a roller coaster, and I think you'll get some resolution and then some other new issues that pop up. Like any good season has its ups and downs, but
yeah,
it's very interesting for sure.
Yeah, but the main, like, by the way, the couch is open, everyone. So come on up and join us. sorry, I wanted to let Sarah finish her thought, and so I just opened the couch. So that might happen from time to time. Just watch.
Good evening,
Yeah,
everyone.
I mean, I totally get that. You know, I just think that the conflict here between these two characters that are like the main, they are the show, you know, is the most difficult to stomach because all of the conflict that we've faced so far in the series, these two have been there for each other to help through it. And so now for this to be a conflict is, you know, the two of them is really hard because you know, of course we've got Luke now to sort of help us get through this for Lorelai, but we don't really have much of it for Rory. I mean, I guess maybe Logan, and perhaps that's why Logan is such a beloved character, because he sort of fits that, you know, he fits that role when Rory needs it, I guess. But I'm, you know, I say this like carefully because I know that you know, a lot of people really have issues with this season, and you know, and specifically like have a hard time with all the stuff with Rory and Lorelai. But I mean, I'm really liking the season, and I wouldn't be surprised if I say that I think it's my favorite.
Could you imagine if Luke and Lorelai did not get back together in season 5 and this still happened? How like much probably more miserable Lorelai would be because she wouldn't have anybody.
She'd have like 4 Paul Ankas.
Yeah. Or cats would show up to her house.
This season, I don't particularly like it, but that's probably more I realized because I like you watch this for a comfort show, and them not being together isn't very comforting. But but I think also like episodes like this just makes me like dislike Rory more. So like when you see the characters separately, you're able to see more of who they are. And I feel like episodes like this just shows that Rory is a bit self-important, selfish. So I struggle more with Rory now that I see them as separate and not together.
Yeah, I'm a bit like Richard, you know. She's supposed to be doing more. She can be more. She was my role model, and she isn't right now.
Yeah, but they kind of, you know, I do feel badly for him somewhat, but then I think, well, but here you are, you didn't go with Lorelai's plan, and then you just kind of did your own thing, and you put her in this pool house, you pay for what she wants, you get her a job, quote unquote, but it really is just fluff. She's not using any of her brain. I mean, she's organizing. I'm not trying to say you don't use your brain with that kind of work, but who she is and what she's meant to be, she's not focused on that at all. And so I think it's just kind of been building up, and then Mitchum happens, and then the sex thing happens, and it's just kind of like, it was kind of like a tea kettle, you know. I feel like it was just gonna blow at some point. And it's just, what did he expect, I guess, when he doesn't encourage her to go to school and she caught up in the world?
I'm not defending him. I was just saying the way he said it is kind of how I feel. I'm like, you're supposed to be more than this,
Oh,
I feel
She can do more.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's kind of like, this doesn't really have to pertain to the episode, but with what you guys are saying about like you can do more. She said the same thing to Jess. Well, Rory said the same thing to Jess in season 2 when it was the tutor episode. And now like people are saying that Rory could do more, and now she's just subjected to planning tea parties and running around like she's a Mad Hatter. And I feel like Richard, I mean, like people said, like Richard did this to himself. He now has to kind of like lay in the bed he made, and he doesn't like it, and he's trying to like fix all the damage, but I think some damage is like kind of irreparable.
She also said it to Dean.
Yeah, I was
When
about to
Dean
say
was
that. Yeah,
going-
she also
when
said it
Dean-
to Dean.
when he dropped out and was working multiple jobs. I guess she can give the advice, but doesn't take it herself.
Well, not only does she drop out of school, but we don't see her doing anything academic. We don't just, I mean, she completely left that all. And so I think that's even more problematic. It's one thing to drop out of school, and then it's another thing to kind of lose your identity when her school is her identity.
Totally agree with you in that she gives the advice, but she can't follow it because she said to Dean, "You can't drop out; you lose momentum." And then Lorelai says that to her, and she's like, kids take time off college all the time."
The other
I
thing
mean,
that
Yeah, like you know what else that I saw that was problematic in this episode? Emily referring to Rory's friend as her Asian friend. I was like, okay.
That scene is horrific.
Cringe.
Rory does
Very-
clap back at her though, if you notice. She's like, Lane.
And then she says it again, and then again she says Lane.
Yep.
Yeah, so in case, you know, if you ever talk to anyone about how to correct things, like referring to people things, just show them that one scene of Gilmore Girls and be like, yeah, you should be Rory here.
Yes, absolutely.
The other thing that I noticed more this time is Emily really like referring to Rory, like what's wrong with Rory becoming like me. I like always like heard it, of course, but I didn't really like, I'm usually focused more on Richard and Richard wanting that life, what life he wants for Rory. But yeah, I realized more this time that Emily really wants like Rory to be more like her.
I see it as her trying to emulate the different type of female role models that she's coming across, because her emotional intelligence is kind of low, because, you know, this guy says one thing to her and then she's shattered by it and then drops everything. So then she's trying to reform her identity with a different role model that she has present for her.
Well put. Well put.
So you feel like Rory has a pretty low emotional intelligence.
oh yeah.
Yeah, because she's basically trying to reform who she is to the core, because she doesn't feel good about what one person has said to her.
Well, and she's been coddled her whole life too. She's been told that she's the best and this whole town loves her and she's the golden child. And so one person says one thing to kind of say, well, that's not the case. And then she crumbles. So I think it's also like,
yeah,
no coping skills part of it too.
But she was all, yeah, I agree. She was also a big fish in a little pond in Stars Hollow, right? And how she's gone out into the big world and she's a little fish in a very big pond.
I would even go further to say Emily recognizes this and is trying to sculpt Rory into the person that Emily wants her to be.
Absolutely.
Yes, because that's the type of woman that is supposed to be with a Logan Huntsberger, right? Or someone of similar caliber.
She is her second chance. That okay, she's doing what,
and if
molding her.
I'm sorry,
was
go on.
supposed to be Lorelai.
100%.
I was going to say, if we go back to I want to say season 2, when Lorelai and Emily are kind of having it out a little bit. It's when they go away on their spa trip together, and Emily's upset because she can't be friendly with Lorelai, and Lorelai and her are talking, and she says, well, I was taught to be a role model to my daughter, not a friend. And she never really got the chance to be a role model to Lorelai because Lorelai was so very different and then obviously left. So I think this is very, isn't it? Lorelai says at the start of this season, you get your like do-over Lorelai, you get the Lorelai you always wanted. And that's exactly Yeah, that's exactly what Emily is seeing it as. She gets to be a role model and help shape this daughter that she never really got. And Rory's going along with it too. I mean, I get Emily, and we can say a lot of things about her and role models and this and how women should be, but at the same time, Rory's letting herself get sucked into this world and putting on these dresses and kind of trying it out. I think Rory kind of, although she had this vision of herself and being a reporter and this journalist, I think part of her was kind of like, well, I don't know, maybe this is for me, and letting her get sucked into it.
I don't think she's so much exploring. Oh, go ahead.
She's been very stubborn too, because she obviously misses her mom, but she is like, no, and she's been so stubborn. And Lorelai too, like, I miss you too, and let's talk about what happened.
Rachel, I would even go to say that she's exploring all these options, not because, hey, I think you'd be good at this, because I really don't think she knows what's going on. I think she's lost. She doesn't have a plan, and she's, you know, trying everything she can to find out, okay, someone told me I suck at this. Who am I? What am I good at? And then Emily's like, oh, you can be good at this, blah, blah, blah. Here, plant some tea. Minus all the blah, blah, blahs, because, you know, that doesn't sound intelligent.
Blah, blah, blah.
How much is like, is there any part of Rory that is upset with her mother? Like, you made me feel like I was better than I actually was. Like, you pumped me full of all of this sort of false sense of genius, and part of her is upset that now she is having a hard time coping.
I think she's
So I
upset
feel
with her,
like-
but not because of that.
Yeah, I mean, upset, I feel like, is a hard word to use, because it can go either way. Because, I mean, she could honestly still be upset with her and mad at her, but as you've seen throughout the episode, those walls of like being stubborn and throwing shade, or however you want to describe it, is kind of breaking down. Those walls are breaking down, because if you saw in Fight Face, where at the end of that episode where Lorelai comes and talks to Rory, and they're basically just like trying to one up each other, and basically having their own version of a fight, you kind of see that now kind of breaking down, because Lorelai was invited and she's very happy that Rory called. And so I feel like maybe upset is a right word, but not in the way that you would normally think. I think they're just upset because they've kind of taken it too far, and they don't really know how to pull it back, because they've had fights before and they've made up, but this is a whole different kind of fight on a whole new level. And so trying to taper this back is a lot harder than the other fights.
I think they just miss each other. No, what I think is that I don't think she's mad at her. I don't think she's mad at her at all. I think she's more mad at herself, and the decisions that she made, you know, are frustrating her, and so she's gonna be defensive. Well, I made this decision, so you know, you don't, you know, I'm gonna pretend I'm mad at you, but I'm actually mad at myself.
I disagree, but with this caveat, I think she is mad at her, but she's mad at her at this point because she lacks the emotional maturity to realize what you just said, that she is really mad at the decisions that that she herself made. I mean, they were their own original life and death brigade. They were, they were each other's ride or die. And I'm sure Rory went into this whole, when they sat down and she talked about going back to Yale, being like, she probably thought like Lorelai would have her back and be like, she's my mom, she's my bud. We've always seen eye to eye. I mean, we've been in each other's existence, and
You're breaking up, Zach.
Sorry.
Do you also think it might be a little bit that Emily's involved in yes, they've had fights in the past, but Emily's never been involved to the level that she is now, and they're both a little bit resentful that Emily and Richard have stuck their nose in, maybe where if they hadn't, maybe they'd find their way back to each other a little bit faster?
I can see that.
Yeah,
I think that plays into the animosity that they have, of that Lorelai has always been very outward and outspoken about how much she despises the type of people that are in Emily and Richard's world. And she makes fun of Logan and his friends and everything like that. And Rory is slowly finding herself integrating and becoming more and more drawn to that type of lifestyle. So I think that, I mean, she might feel a little bit of animosity in that regard, more so than her personal choices, I think, for, leaving school.
Absolutely.
I think a really interesting, kind of bouncing off that point a little bit, going a little off topic, but not really. The way we had the parallel to the birthday scene in bed, it made me think about the fact that we've had an episode of Rory's birthday party in that house before, and how the issue was between Rory and Emily, and we got to see Lorelai and Rory leaving together. It was like they were escaping that house together, and to now watch another birthday party a few years apart where Lorelai has to look at Rory and then leave by herself, I don't think it was very intentional, but just calling that all the way back to season 1, I think it was just kind of really striking the way that it just brought it up in my head.
Yeah, it was very powerful. Definitely.
What was the pop
Thank you.
ref with that particular person that was in that scene? Does anybody know?
Madeline Albright, you mean?
Madeline Albright. Yep.
Yeah, like why her?
Oh,
Rory looks up to her.
yeah, because
Role
Madeline
model.
Albright, yeah, that was that.
It's one of her
Yeah, I mean,
heroes.
Secretary of State. I mean, it just. I mean, Rory kind of has this like world, this idea of sort of jet setting and seeing the world and going out into the world, being a field reporter. Secretary of State is kind of like that's the like main role in government that deals with that, and for it to be a woman Secretary of State, I think that's also a little bit of Amy.
Yeah,
putting that
I think
in
it.
there.
Yeah, I think it's like a very high position that a girl was in that high position.
I actually know the story behind this, and I mentioned I really wanted you all to know that when I met Madeline Albright, like anyone from Gilmore Girls, I'm like, oh my God, you're from Gilmore Girls. So that was so fun. But the story about that is, I don't know how they chose Madeline Albright, but when they asked her office what they were going to do was call and see if they could use her likeness. So they were going to cast somebody who looked like her. And her granddaughter was actually a huge fan of the show. So she said, well, can't I just do it? And so that's how, that's the story that I know. So that's how she wound up on the show.
That's incredible.
Time to harvest, guys.
Oh, shit.
It's really
Thank
cool.
you for sharing. Those are the tidbits I love to hear about.
Yeah, I don't
Thank
remember
you.
how I know that, but it was really, that's,
But that's what
so fun.
That's why I love listening to all of this. Thank you.
It's funny because I was actually at my mother-in-law's when the room first opened. That's why I was on my phone, on my Android and not my iPad. But I had told my mother-in-law that this is the type of stuff that we get to hear, this behind the scenes that I never would have known if it wasn't for this community. And this is why I enjoy it so much.
Yeah, I love it, especially when I mean everyone has something that they bring, but I love it when Valerie joins us because then she knows kind of a little bit more about, you know, the behind the scenes perspective. I'd love to like hear from one of the casting directors a little bit more about that, you know, if that was all there was to it, because I don't remember how I heard that. It might have been Gilmore guys, it might have been from Secretary Albright herself, like in some interview, but yeah. I mean, Gilmore Girls kind of paved the way for that because she started doing like, she did Parks and Rec, and a lot of other politicians did Parks and Rec. Yeah, no, I just thought that that was so funny. Is that like, I'm thinking, have there been any other guest spots other than the end of, or the beginning of season 3 when they are in Washington? Are there other like celebrity cameos up to this point?
Up to this point, I don't think so, but
Well,
I
see,
can't.
there's
I can't-
Norman Mailer
Oh, that's
and
right.
his son, and then the DC thing and the Madeleine Albright, and I think that's it so far.
Do we see the real Paul Anka, or that's
Nope.
No, spoiler.
Spoiler.
No, we
Shins are famous to be.
there's no real
They had the
Paul.
shins and the bangle.
Oh yeah, the Bengals. I forgot about that. The shins. Brian said the shins.
I said the shins.
Oh yeah, Shelley said the shins.
What band is it that plays on Rory's spring break? Because
The
they got a lot of
Shins.
shows. Oh, okay. I don't know them, so I was like, I know they got like 5 minutes of screen time, so they have to be somewhere.
Also, I think in the same Bengals episode, I don't know if people noticed, but Brandon Routh, before he became Superman.
Scott Pilgrim's enemy.
Brandon Routh. He was one of
Yeah,
Scott
he
Pilgrim's enemies.
was also in Chuck, DC Legends of Tomorrow.
Ugh.
He started on Arrow in the DC universe. Sorry, I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh, you mean as Ray Palmer? Yeah.
Yes, and he did actually play Superman in one of the episodes.
I'm still here. It's just I'm letting folks chat
What's your thoughts, John?
about what specifically. We've been talking about a few things.
Well, about like the whole
About all of the guest stars, Madeleine
well,
Albright.
no, like no. Like the parallel between the birthdays and kind of how what someone said
Yeah, I mean,
about
I think that's a brilliant parallel. You know, I'm still trying to figure out, like, I'm trying to put my finger on like what it was that specifically started all of this and what is tightening the knot. And like, I think I could probably that the idea that it's because Rory is upset with herself, I guess makes some sense. I just feel like there might be a part of Rory that is sort of like she doesn't believe anymore that she's this like great thing, this person destined for greatness out in the world. That she's starting to now believe what Mitchum and what Jess once kind of jokingly laughed about in the car. That was something that was interesting, that was brought up. I can't remember if it was by Lee or
that was by me.
It was myself, and then someone else mentioned it.
I do like the chemistry between the characters here. There's definitely a story there that can be uncovered in this world. Like I really like that. I like the little mention of just like Mercer, what was going on there, and just seeing the dynamics of the group.
I think the only thing that I've noticed that was what I kind of see as an improvement is that there is a lot of explaining, like a lot of character explaining of like who they are and things like that.
Carl, are you talking to us? I'm confused. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. I'm unclear as well.
He might be on a call. That's why I was confused.
Sorry, I wanted to bounce off of what John was just saying, that he's struggling with, you know, where Rory and Lorelai's relationship, how that's settling out right now. And I guess I just wanted to share some insights. I think I really feel like Rory is having a complete crisis of identity. And we've seen little hints of it along the way. So we see the first hint when she gets into Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. And, you know, her whole life she was saying, I'm going to Harvard, I'm going to Harvard. And we even hear the comment that, you know, like, how did that even start? Like, was that something that she wanted, or was that what her mom wanted? And then, you know, when she makes a decision that she's not going to Harvard, she struggles with that. Like, you know, like I was expected that I was going to be going to Yale, and like, sorry, I was expecting to go to Harvard. Now I'm going to Yale. Like, do I even know who I am anymore? So that's kind of like the first piece. And then we see seeds of doubt grow in her in first year when she's taking the 5 courses and she can't handle it. And she's supposed to be able to handle it. Her grandfather handled it. She's a Gilmore. This is what she's supposed to do. But she rallies back. And now here we are, you know, she gets this break at a paper. This is what she wants to do. And somebody who she looks up to and is a mentor is telling her she doesn't have what it takes. And I think it's just the accumulation of all those things. It's suddenly like, wow, holy shit, like, have I been wrong my whole life? Like, is this even what I want to do? Is this who I am? I'm angry at myself. I'm angry at my grandparents. Yeah, I think it's just like this culmination.
You went out, Nick.
You went out for a second.
I just think it's a culmination of all these things, and it's like her world is just imploding, and she's angry at herself, her grandparents, her mother.
I agree with you, Nikki. I definitely think that he is in a bit of a crisis. But I also think I had mentioned this, I think, a couple episodes ago, that she is a bit of a perfectionist. I've noticed that a lot about her, especially when she has to choose between what college she wants to go to, and her paper, and not being able to all of the classes, the 5 classes at Yale, and not being able to handle it because she's a Gilmore, and my grandfather did that, so I should be able to do that too. And because I think, you know, Lorelai and all of Stars Hollow, you know, make her feel like she's this amazing person and she can do no wrong and she's incredible. You know, the minute something goes wrong, you know, I think she freaks out because she puts so much pressure on herself to be perfect, because that's what everyone expects of her. That when Mitchum crushes her in that way, she doesn't know what to do, because she's, you know, this is all she's ever wanted, and she's like, wait, what? Like, and especially because he's somebody that she looks up to, not only as Logan's father, but she's admired him for a very long time. So when, you know, when he says, you know, I don't think, you know, you don't have it, you don't got it, you know, she immediately is like, if she falls apart, because she, you know, I feel like she's put so much pressure on herself to do well in this internship. And she even says, like, when he said, you know, you didn't stand up, you didn't say anything, like, look at Harry, he you know, joined in, you know, he said his
piece, and she's like, well, I didn't know that I could, like, I just do what's asked of me. Like, she's a person that, you know, needs to be, you know, told directly, I think, you know, what's asked of her. And she wasn't there as a journalist. She was there as his assistant, so she was doing everything that she was asked to do. So I think she just puts a lot of pressure on herself, and I think she's spiraling now because she doesn't know where to go. She's lost. She doesn't know what she's doing. And you know, I think I wasn't here for the last couple episodes, but when Lorelai, you know, gets mad at her for wanting to take a break from Yale after the boat debacle, I think Lorelai kind of overreacts a little bit. I understand why she's upset, obviously, of course, but I think, you know, Rory needed this break because she doesn't know what she wants to do anymore. Like, she had her whole life set on being a journalist, and now she doesn't think she can do it just because Mitchum told her she can't. And so I think she really needs this break to kind of try to figure herself out. And so I think Lorelai overreacted a little bit because a lot of kids take time off in college for many reasons, but specifically when they're struggling to try to figure out what they want to do. If their specific major they originally picked was not, you know, something that they wanted to continue. I know plenty of people that have taken breaks from college, so I think that Lorelai overreacted a little bit, and I think this break was good for Rory because she needed that. But yeah,
So if we're still talking about the awkwardness between Lorelai and Rory at the party, my personal feelings on it is that they both miss each other, and they both are being a little stubborn because Lorelai made an ultimatum. Rory's taking that somewhat seriously, and she hasn't gone back to school yet. And they just don't know how to work things out between each other. So they're just being awkward and strange, and they just don't know what to say to each other as a result. That's just what I feel about it.
I mean, I get that. I just, and that's probably the simplest way to sort of explain what's going on here. I guess I was just trying to dig a little bit deeper and think, like, you know, could there be, and I think Nikki sort of touches on this a bit, and that makes sense to me as well. This idea that she's just generally angry at a, you know, I mean, not, and when I say angry, I don't mean like, you know, like I'm talking about like that deeper anger that you aren't even totally aware you have. I don't think that she specifically thinks that, like wakes up every day and is like, I'm pissed off, you know? But I think that what keeps her from thinking about that academic world again, what keeps her from thinking about her mom and the life that she had before all of this went down, is something that she doesn't like about herself, that is connected to her past, and connected to all of these people from her past, and the number one person from her past, her mom, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I think that there's probably some kind of, I don't know if anger is the right word, but there's some like feelings that she has not worked out yet, that relate to how she feels about herself, but specifically how she's been made to feel about herself, right? Like how much, I mean, this town has treated her like the golden child since the beginning. We have treated her like the golden child at times. There was I remember when she was getting her college applications, there was like discussion of like, should she have gotten a scholarship? I mean, you know, and I even remember thinking that was absurd, you know, and that she got all of those envelopes is kind of in itself a little fantastical, you know, and, you know, and so I feel like maybe that's part of it, is that she's sort of like, this has all been like a fantasy, and why did I have to believe that? And you know, all of these people who are connected to that fantasy would probably be, you know, she would be have a really hard time like dealing with them, especially the number one person.
Yeah.
I think that anger fell into disappointment in herself, because I mean, you've got that scene with Rory. I mean, with Rory looking at Paris, and Paris gets the editor job, and so she's disappointed in herself. She looks at her mom and she's like, that should have been me, you know, that type of thing also.
Yeah, I think that with Lorelai, that where it all starts is when Rory went to her parents behind her back. Like, I feel like a part of the hurt there is that, in a way, Rory chose Emily and Richard over her mum. And even so, that's probably not all logical and not exactly what happened. I'm guessing that's where it started for Lorelai. And time has just made it worse. Like, the more time that goes on, the harder it is to like mend those sorts of hurt. So I think that's what you see.
For Lorelai, but what do you think started it for Rory?
I like what Nikki was saying about what started it for Rory. I feel like she was just trying to work out of herself, away from her mum.
Yeah.
I think also everyone put her on, honestly, on a pedestal, and that Mitchum was one of the first people that knocked her off her pedestal, and so she doesn't know what to do with herself without her pedestal.
This is what I'm getting at. This is exactly what I'm getting at. You hit the nail on the head for me. Like, that's what I've been trying to sort of articulate. This idea of like being knocked off the pedestal, and she doesn't know what to do now that she's off of the pedestal.
The only other person that I don't think that could be considered knocked off the pedestal would be Paris, in her own right. But everybody,
right, but then
she's so terrific. She's so.
But then, is there any like, now that Rory's knocked off the pedestal, then she knows now that there's a pedestal. That's sort of what I'm getting at, is that like,
I don't know,
knowing
that she's realizing. I think she's realizing it, but I don't think it's an easy pill to swallow.
Right.
It's not.
So if she's realizing now, I was always on a pedestal, and now I'm knocked off of this pedestal, and there's this pedestal that I was on. It, like, wouldn't a person's natural feeling be not necessarily upset with themselves, but maybe upset with those who put them on a pedestal?
A little bit, but she's a fish out of water. She doesn't know what to do, because no one has ever knocked her a little bit off that pedestal. She was the A student in Stars Hollow High. She got a D on that paper in Chilton, but then she became valedictorian. Like, she busted her butt, but there's never been somebody to question the pedestal.
Well,
And she just
really
fell really hard. She fell far down from that pedestal.
And isn't that isn't that a really immature way of thinking about it too? That you're not going to blame yourself or kind of find strength within yourself. You're going to point fingers at somebody else and say, "Well, you made this pedestal, but you're standing on it." And if you get knocked off, I mean, she's 20. We're talking about a 21-year-old woman, and so she, at some point, when is she going to accept her accountability for her actions? And someone knocked her off, she's going to look at everybody else and say, well, you put me here. Well, okay, that doesn't change that you've fallen and you're scraped and you have these scrapes. So dust yourself off and figure it out, and how you're going to repair yourself. I think that's kind of, maybe T was saying, the emotional intelligence. I think if you're going to look at others and say, well, you put me here and you did this. She's 21. It's time for herself to look at what she's doing and her accountability.
And I'm going to show the person who knocked me down that you were wrong. I'm going to work to after. Of course, he's going to get shook off, but.
Wait a second. So let me ask this. So somebody knocks her off of her pedestal, and now she's off of her pedestal, and she's like, and if so, by that logic, Tanya, that if she were to want to prove him wrong, are you saying that she should be wanting to get back up onto the pedestal.
Maybe she thinks she deserves to be on it.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that,
that's
and
interesting
also,
and very, very weird, but
and
very
also,
interesting.
and also to show the person who knocked me down, I'm gonna show that person that I have what I have it. And let me see. Yeah.
But maybe you don't need
I-
maybe you don't need to get back up onto the pedestal to show.
Yeah,
somebody
but
that, I
to
think.
show, yes, this is what I want. I got it. I get what I want. I'm gonna work for what I wanted my whole life. I'm gonna show you. But yeah, she was too high on that pedestal. That's one of the situations that she was way too high.
Think
on
that
that pedestal.
she was so high she couldn't see the ground at some points.
Exactly.
I don't
Exactly.
I don't agree with that, because from day one Rory has worked really hard academically. You know, it's like she just like she put her nose in her book and she worked really hard.
I don't
So
think she didn't work really hard, but I think that in some ways it may have come easier to her than someone else. But I think that because she worked hard and it may have come easier. And then you had from Richard, one of the first meetings. Oh, you know, Lorelai, your daughter's really smart. I think they just it kept on like a little bit of layer on top of a layer, and soon she was walking up the stairs.
Well, let me ask this just to the group. Show of mics. How many folks think that Rory was put on a false pedestal? I'm gonna flash with that, by the way. So I think you are.
You know what's funny about
doesn't
this
mean
is I never
that
thought
doesn't mean that I don't think that Rory is extremely intelligent and that I don't think Rory is like, you know, top of her class, but I still think she was put on a false pedestal.
Do you think that that's why she's trying so hard with the DAR? Because now that all these women are telling her how great she's doing with all these events and things, she's got somebody admiring her again?
Yes, I do.
100%.
Yes, I do.
Analogy.
Thank you, Jessica, for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
Walking
y'all.
with headphones in, and I hadn't been able to talk this whole time. I've been waiting to say it, but I finally stopped. So
That was a good
Oh yeah, and just to
analogy,
say,
Sarah.
everyone. Yeah, like just to say, apologies for earlier. I was in the middle of giving my roommate a critique on a story he wanted me to read, and I don't know how I got unmuted. Sorry.
I know we were all kind of like, wait a second, what is
Is
going
he
on?
talking to us? No, I mean, okay. So, in all these communities and everything, not necessarily this one, but just I always see that, you know, people are so hard on Rory because they say she's in this pedestal, she's on this pedestal. Okay, but if you saw somebody who was absolutely gorgeous and everybody that walked up to her said, "You are so pretty. You are beautiful. Oh my God, you are so pretty." Every single person, one person after another, one person after another. I mean, are they going to feel, I mean, they're going to feel a little bit superior to somebody else compared to maybe somebody that's standing beside them that they're not complimenting. But it's not necessarily
It's not their fault. It's not their fault.
Yeah, it's not their fault.
I actually am with you there,
No, it's not her
Shona.
fault.
I'm completely with you. I actually don't believe that it's her fault. I don't believe people put themselves on pedestals. You know, more than anything, you know, I'm really speaking to this idea that maybe she's become aware of the fact that she got too much of that, you know, sort of, you're amazing, you're so smart, you're the best, you know, and that now that she's gotten sort of knocked off of it by Mitchum, that she would, you know, have at least, you know, an unconscious resentment towards this whole world that made her feel that way. And that would naturally then have her gravitating towards another world that, you know, is the opposite of it. And I think to Jessica's point, you know, if that felt comfortable your whole life being sort of, you know, made to feel special, to have this new world now make you feel special, might that also may sort of play into a bit of why she's feeling that way. But by no means am I blaming Rory or am hard on Rory at all. I mean, I feel very, very, very bad for the character right now, for sure.
I'm going to disagree with you there.
Oh, really?
Because
you're like, I don't feel bad for the character.
No, I agree partly, but I also feel like she's very, very naive. You know, like
Oh, we lost you.
Sorry, I'm not disputing she's a highly intelligent girl and that she doesn't work hard academically, but really outside of that, she's not a well-rounded person, right? She's never had a job and needed to earn money to either, you know, help support the family or, you know, to get things that she's wanted. Things have just been given to her, which is in complete contrast to Lorelai, who at 16, you know, left home and was living in a potting shed to support her and her daughter. And so, you know, she had a completely different experience.
But
so,
didn't Rory actually work at the Independence in the beginning?
She worked at, yeah, and she had summer job
out after school. I think what
Yeah.
Nikki's talking
helping
about
out,
is
though.
more like set hours and
yeah,
actually
she
having to make
helped, like,
Yeah.
her mom was the manager. She came and went as she pleased. She kind of did little things like to me, that's not the same as like what Dean did.
Well, but she also worked. She did inventory and stuff at the bookstore. She may not have been like a 9-to-5er, but she did do things.
But that was in university, like, and like most people get a job when they're in high school.
I think what Nikki's trying to say is that she didn't need to. Like, if she didn't have those little jobs, she still would have had money from her grandparents or had money to fall back on to do the things she wanted to do, while other people didn't have that option.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
but didn't Lorelai want
she's
her
just
to
had a very
focus on
sheltered
study?
and
I missed all of that. There was a
She
few
did,
people
but
on top of.
I think that there's something to be said. I mean, I presently live in a very spoiled town. I guess that's the best way of saying it. And there's something to be said about knowing how to earn a dollar and what that means versus it's being handed to you. And there's a fine line there.
And you know, like, she was never told in high school, like, you need to save money to go to university, right? Like, she was told that she was going to Harvard, and the reality of where the money for that was going to come from was never brought into the equation. Like, my parents told me at 10 years old, we'll be able to help you with school, but like, you're going to have to pitch in a lot. And at 10 years old, I went out and got 4 paper routes to start saving money to go to university.
But that's because Lorelai always had the safety net of her parents. She's always known in the back of her mind that if she needed assistance, she would get it. So why would she talk to Rory about money?
But I feel like
Rory is naive in that she never asked the questions. How are you going to pay for Harvard, Mom? Like, yeah, she's the manager at an inn, but like, a manager at an inn, I don't think makes enough money to pay to go to an Ivy League school.
Could the same?
Don't you think Lorelai would kind of say
something? Because that kind of the same thing, like that they didn't think about how she was going to pay for it. It was okay, we got you in, but oh my God, it's too much money.
She planned on some financial aid, though, Lorelai did, and it was denied because of that $75,000 her father had given her right before Rory went to Yale. So
right, but what about Chilton?
I think the Chilton thing was something different, but I mean, like with the college, to what Nikki was saying, Lorelai, I think, was depending on being able to get financial aid for Rory and probably doing some loans, but got denied because of that money. So, I mean, but she just probably never talked to Rory about it because she didn't want Rory to worry about it. She just wanted her to focus on school. I'm not saying that's right, but I think that's what, in the fictional world of Gilmore Girls, I think that's the way Lorelai was probably thinking about it. And she always had her safety net.
Yeah, I think Lorelai definitely wanted Rory to focus on the academic side of things, and I think she would have told her that Lorelai, would worry about the financial side of things. But I'm going back to the pedestal thing. Do we think that it's Lorelai who put Rory on a pedestal? Because I do not think.
Really? I think that she played a part.
I mean,
Because when Rory got a D, she didn't like question. I like, as a teacher, I feel like when I give students a bad mark, I have some, shall I say, helicopter parents who will fight me on the mark. And Lorelai never did that. She just was like, oh gosh, well, Rory must feel bad. And then she helped Rory to study for the makeup test. You know, she didn't like, oh no, you're amazing and the school is wrong. And then when Rory
Yeah, I see that because I was going to push back and say, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she doesn't find other opportunities to make Rory feel like she's super special and gifted. But
that's true, I guess.
But that also makes sense that yeah, there is that helicopter mom or helicopter parent. Why we don't have to specifically give it to moms, but that do kind of fight. They sort of fight the world. They fight the world, trying to tell their child that you are like everyone else. And not that Rory is like everyone else, but perhaps I guess that was sort of what I was getting at, like back when I was saying, like, it would just be over the top if she got a scholarship. What also, like,
yes.
I found like it was, found out sense that it was kind of somewhat over the top that she got all of those envelopes, but I'm willing to accept that. Maybe it was a little different back in the early 2000s. Like now, just the competitive nature of Ivy League schools, and it just, it felt very written. But adding a scholarship to it would have just been absolutely nonsensical to me. But
yeah, because her family got money.
Right, and yeah, that too, right? Yeah.
Well, can I ask that instead of saying she's on the pedestal, could we say she was built up? Because to me, it just seems like, okay, she climbed to the top, and she's on top of this pedestal, and where she was on top of this pedestal, and somebody came along and just kicked her.
But I don't think that people climb up on pedestals. I think people put them on there. So I think it's the same thing. I think it's the same thing to say she was built up as to say that somebody put her on a pedestal.
You could also say that, like, she was given false expectations.
Yes, we can say that. That's probably a better way of saying it. Actually,
the thing of it is that at some point in time, we each and every one of us have had moments of where we have gotten attaboys and good job, slugger, and you're the greatest, and blah blah blah, and we were on a pedestal for, even if it was 15 minutes, even if it was 10 days, we were, each and every single one of us, and maybe we would have faltered and fell off of that. But I mean, and it makes me feel really bad for the character, because it's like yeah, they have all these expectations of her, and now that she's not doing so well, it's like, God, do better, and it's like, why, I mean, yes, she should do better, but encourage her to do better instead of, like, being angry with her. If that makes sense.
I get what you're saying. I think that, yeah, even so, Rory may not be in this position by her own making, that everyone has the ability to make their own choices when they find themselves in any position. And I feel like Rory just is very self-entitled and is very good at blaming others. So I do have problems with Rory more than I have problems with the others around her.
I
And
agree,
how do we know-
Loretta, and I think that also she's young, and I think at some point you have to learn that whatever people tell you, you're garbage or you're the best person in the world. No matter what people tell you, you have to have the strength in yourself to believe in yourself and to create your own narrative and create your own self-worth. And I think that she's just kind of looking at everybody else and not really looking at herself. And so I think with this, I don't care who created the pedestal, because to me, it's like, I think it's time. And I think we just see her young and kind of finding herself. And I think that's just part of it. And I think at some point you just have to realize that no matter what people say, good or bad, that you have to persevere and you have to go ahead on your own.
Exactly.
I think like
Yeah,
the biggest
agree with
thing,
that.
yeah, like I think the biggest reason why I'm not that like set back, or I guess like thinking about like how entitled Rory is and all that stuff, is because I just see this as her adolescence. And as I've noticed, when you come from like a really good background, really good family, like you're safe, secure, all that stuff, once you start to go out into the world, there's somebody that's going to knock you down, and you just have like some type of volatile response to it. I don't think that's true for everyone. But to see Rory do it, I just saw it as her having her adolescence. Like this is her adolescent moment, because in her teens, she really was like an assistant to like a lot of the adults around in her life, especially it was like Lorelai Gilmore and going out doing all these Stars Hollow events. And she was like a baby, you know, catering to like what her grandparents do because she loves her grandparents, like very much kind of like does that type of stuff because she cares about the adults in her life. And then when she does the same thing with Mitchum, you know, she doesn't get rewarded for it like she has before. So I see this as like a reaction to shock. I see this as like her having her adolescent moment. And I just kind of move on from that. I think that's why like when the storyline happens, I'm just kind of like, and I keep it moving.
Right.
But
When you get
I do understand the differences and stuff. What'd you say?
When you get knocked down, you should get back up. She's completely not trying to stand back up.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Sherry, she technically is, because she's doing all of those hours of community service. She's owning up to what she did with the vote thing. And also she's doing things with the DAR. Instead of just laying around eating chips and just like having sex with Logan, she's doing more things. Like she's being active. She's just not doing as much as she did as the Rory Gilmore that we knew in the first 5 seasons.
Or
she's
rather,
getting up slowly but surely.
Or rather, she's not doing the kind of things, because I think you have a good point. She's actually doing a lot. She organized an entire party. She's doing tons of community service. She's doing a lot. It's just not the things that we've come to be proud of her for doing. It's all these things that are linked to a character who's largely been sort of vilified in the series as being, you know, the person who our main Gilmore girls have, you know, escaped from.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, I mean, she actually does have kind of a full life. It's so interesting because watching with all of you, you've watched this show so many times. I'm like experiencing all of this for the first time, and throughout most of season 1, 2, and 3, maybe getting into 4 a bit. By 5, I started to really understand a bit more the feelings that the larger fandom has towards Rory and for Lorelai. You know, I've had my own strong critiques about Lorelai, and I've had a lot of really positive feelings about Rory. And I'm coming to understand that a lot of who Rory is, and probably has been, she's probably been this way. I just didn't see it as well because I'm watching it for the first time. A lot of the feelings towards the characters, I think, are kind of culminating in this season. Like, my feelings for Lorelai have like skyrocketed, you know, and my feelings for Rory have plummeted.
Now, I
Just here in
remember
this
when
season.
you did the poll, you were surprised that Rory was so low. Are you
Yeah. Yeah, now that's making sense to me. And it's also making sense, a lot of things that people were saying in those earlier seasons that I just didn't understand. Like, well, I'm not seeing it. Like, I don't see what you mean. But I hadn't gotten to this point. And if you've watched the show, it'll be very interesting when I watch this again. When you watch the show, you can't help but put that into the Rory from earlier seasons, because you already know that that's who she's going to grow into. And I don't know. It's just an interesting thing that I'm starting to understand, starting to realize, because it's very difficult not to feel absolutely awful for Lorelai right now.
And it's also hard for us to I mean, I know myself, when I watched, I try to think about, if I was watching it for the first time, how would I be thinking? And there are times that I can think back to the first time I watched it, but there are times where everything else is just too there in front of me that I can't help but to feel what I feel.
Right, sure, exactly. I mean, that's completely natural. But
Have you figured out why I like Emily yet?
have I figured out what?
Why I've always liked Emily yet?
You're an Emily fan, Chris.
I have been.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I still like Emily, and she's definitely high up there for me.
I mean, did you notice how in this episode, even though she has her issues with Lorelai, she doesn't project them onto Rory, where she asks Rory, do you want to invite your mother? Should I put her on the list? And then, she doesn't really, in this episode, she's almost like she's encouraging Rory to connect with her mother without actually saying it out loud. In a way.
Like a mother.
But she could have totally just ignored that and not even asked Rory about it, and never even invited Lorelai to the party and all that kind of stuff.
But
little
when
things.
when Lorelai's at the party, she's extremely rude to her.
Yeah, but that's her issue with Lorelai. She's not putting that onto Rory.
Emily's consistent, that's for sure.
We love
But that's not
consistency.
why I like Emily. I'm just saying it's one of those things that there's these little things about Emily. She's just got more to her than just being this evil person that everybody makes her out to be. That's all I'm saying.
Very calculated.
That John, let me ask your opinion on Rory. You said has plummeted.
Yes.
And it's like, is it because she made a mistake?
No, this is the way she's behaving right now.
Well, I mean, if you thought that, I mean, if you were struggling with something, I mean, and again, we've all struggled with something, and you were dead set on that struggle. I mean, how would you feel about people? I mean, I know she's not a person, she's a character, but I'm trying to get into this as much. I'm just trying to say that, I mean, if you struggle, if you were in her position and she was, and you felt, and
I feel like I have been in her position before. I mean, I feel like I have been, I have behaved the way that she is because I got knocked off of a pedestal or was put in my place. I can certainly relate to her and sympathize with her while also still feeling like she's not behaving right, like that she's not doing the right thing right now.
I mean, no, she's not.
Yeah, that's all,
And
and that's really all it is, because up until now, I haven't really seen her behaving this way. I've always seen her as, somebody who's going out of her way to help her friends, and and she seems self-absorbed. She seems into petty things, and it just doesn't. It's not the Rory that I really sort of loved. But the main thing, of course, is that, like, I see how hard this is on Lorelai, and because of how bugged I am about Rory's behavior, I can't help but feel like Lorelai's being hurt by Rory. And so then that's what I mean by, like, one character sort of goes up for me. I feel more for one character, and then the other one just sort of falls down. But don't mistake that for I don't like the Rory character. I still, like I've said this before, all of these characters are like just beloved. They're a part of the larger story. And I can relate to all of them in different ways. But I felt connected to Rory in earlier seasons, and I don't feel connected to her anymore. Not the way that I did before. And vice versa. I've had a hard time. I've struggled connecting to Lorelai. Like, she's just not a person that I personally I could imagine really being friends with in real life. And yet this season I'm connecting with her on a much deeper level than I've ever connected in any previous seasons, which is also part of why I'm saying, like, I'm really loving this season.
Yeah, like John, crazy enough, my feelings on Rory, I didn't really feel for her this much in season 6 when I first watched it. Not until I went to college and I got knocked down. And then I was like, okay, I get it. It was kind of like, as soon as you have that really happen to you, and it's like, you fall down on the ground hard, because for Rory, this was like a hard fall. It's like, okay, I guess. Like, I get where you were coming from. I don't relate to it that much, because, we got different worlds, but I get it. And same thing with Lorelai. I know that, I mean, when I first watched it, I mostly like Lorelai because I thought she was hot. I'm gonna be truthful. But like the biggest reason why I related to her a lot in this season was because I saw her hurting like a mother. Like you see this mother not interacting with her daughter, this person that she's really had right by her side the whole time as her best friend. It's like, okay, I get it. If I lost my best friend and my child at the same time, I'd be hurting too. So it really does become like a relatable thing for Lorelai, the character. It makes it easier for me to see more of the humanity in her, instead of just her as like I don't know, acting like a flirty flight attendant around Stars Hollow. I really don't know how else.
The other thing that I think about a lot is that I felt like, and I'm probably going to be the only one, but I am on Lorelai's side. But I also want to say that, the disappointment that Lorelai had in her face when Rory said, "Mom, I'm not going back to Yale." It's like, you seen that, and then you seen the disappointment in Rory's face when Lorelai said, "Well, you're not gonna stick around here and work in the bookstore and blah 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 for the summer and do all this." And so Rory makes that decision. But couldn't there have, I mean, it's a drama, and I know this. But couldn't there have been like some kind of like something that Lorelai and Rory could have like just, I guess if it wasn't for Richard and Emily getting in the way, it might have been, but I don't know. It just seems to me that, it was that this was meant to happen for them to act at this time, because it just, I don't know. Never mind. Sorry.
No, you're okay.
I guess I'm just like, couldn't have Lorelai just tried to like understand where Rory was coming from, where and try to guide her at least back to where she was,
How?
and
How?
I'm not sure, I mean,
Lorelai didn't get those experiences, so it probably was difficult for her to be able to guide Rory back into something she never actually got to experience herself. So instead of doing it that way, she tried to kind of control the situation in a way by saying, if you don't do this, because this is what I want you to do, you can't come home. And that's where the big conflict comes between them. And they can't figure out how to get out of that spot, because at this time, Rory's not going back to school. She's not dealing with things that she should be dealing with, and hasn't figured out how to deal with them, probably because she's overwhelmed with community service and other things and her grandparents. And Lorelai doesn't know how to take back her ultimatum and without Rory going back to school, kind of thing. I mean, they're really stuck in a spot, and that's part of what makes the beginning of the season so good in that way, and hard to watch. But
Chris,
hard,
do you
it would be
like
hard
Chris?
for
Do you like
Lorelai.
this season?
It depends on which part of the season you're talking about, and I really don't want to like say a whole lot about it, because
Okay, yeah.
you
Don't say
don't know
it.
what's coming along. So I
Yeah,
do,
we're only a third. We're only a third of the way through the season, so there's still
a lot to happen.
technically we're just coming out of Act 1 of this season.
Yeah,
So
and I rate 5 as my top. It's always been my favorite season, 5 and 3, and
100%.
6 comes pretty close in the third place, along with probably 4. But it just kind of really, it depends on what storylines you're talking about. I really can't talk to you about them.
yeah, that's fine. It's fine.
So,
But
I-
season
I
A
six,
third of the way
season
there,
six
but nowhere
digs-
near it.
Season 6
Exactly.
digs deep. Season 6 digs deep. That
Yes, there's
just
a
like
lot
in
to
terms of
happen.
character, there's just so much really deep character stuff in here to chew on and explore. I get that this season would not be a great season to live in, to return to find comfort in it. That's definitely not this season. I get that 100%. But I don't know. I guess I kind of like
Can
my
anybody
world
hear
to
John?
have a little bit of. What's that?
I
Is it?
hear John.
Oh, hold on.
I think
But I
Carl's
guess it's like
having
it's what
connection
Carl
issues.
once said. It's like what Carl once said. I like a good fight.
You do like a good fight, John. Jesus Christ. After this, we might as well watch Bad Girls.
Well, and as someone said the other day, it really was time for them to have something like this happen. I mean, we went 5 seasons worth.
Yes, of course.
Not a
Well,
lot
I
of
mean, it
conflict
seems,
happened, but
it's the perfect time for it to happen. It's like it's like we're closing in on like the climax of the entire series, and that it would make sense that like the biggest, most difficult challenges revolve around these two. They haven't had challenges that they themselves had to face against one another. It was always external, and they were always there to help each other through the difficulties. And so from just like a broader story perspective, it seems like that would be a logical place to take it.
well, and Rory's growing up, so it's natural that she's going to run into some conflict with her mother at this point, because she's out of the house. She's experiencing some things without her and seeing things differently than what her mother's told her how things are sometimes, and that's just going to happen. And that happens to people in life, and they kind of have their conflicts, they make up, things are great.
Yes,
So
yes,
it's
totally.
We started seeing this in season 5, where Lorelai was kind of like, hey, look, she was kind of like, look, I'm Rory's out of the house now. She's in college. She can make her own decision. She even said that one time, Luke, if she was in here, I could lock her in her room and I could make her do it. But she's not here. She's on her own. So I can just tell her what I think and that's it. And she makes her own decisions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've got so many different sides of the coin to this. I am just as conflicted as you are.
That's I mean, that's just good writing. I've made a few folks moderators. I am going to head out now. Thank you everyone once again for joining me for another of these. If you haven't already seen, if you have our app, if you have an account, you know about our polls. We have polls. It's one of the new features in Remarcus that has been a lot of fun. And we have a pretty important poll that's running right now. RuPaul's Drag Race versus The Bachelorverse. It's tight, to say the least. We ran the poll to see, if potentially a reality show could. Now, that's not to say that we're gonna just do one. I'm sort of polling all kinds of shows to see, like, what are a variety of shows. So if reality shows are not your thing, don't worry. We're gonna have plenty of other things that are gonna be coming, including, as I've said before, this very Gilmore Girls world is gonna still stay alive on Remarcus, so you don't have to worry about that. But this whole thing with like reality shows, I did this poll about a week ago, and I had a bunch of them, and RuPaul's Drag Race won pretty handily. But I kind of got thinking, like, I should run it again, just RuPaul against The Bachelorverse, because it's possible that the folks who voted for American Idol, Amazing Race, Survivor, that when given the opportunity of only two choices, it's possible that they could end up giving their vote to The Bachelor, and it seems like that might have been what's going on. We still have several more days, but if you don't know about that poll and don't know that it's going on, and you are a member on our app, I encourage you to put your voice into the mix if you have an opinion. If you don't have an opinion, you don't have to vote, actually.
John, where is my Escape to the Chateau?
Oh, I love that show.
Escape to the Chateau.
I mean, I could just see us. I could just see us doing Escape to the Chateau just because we want to do Escape to the Chateau. I just thought that it would be fun for us to have a little bit of, like, just because those reality shows are competition shows, so it's kind of fun that they're competing against one another here at Remarcus.
I know, I'm just teasing because I've been told that I need to vote for both those shows because I don't watch either. Just one person's like, you need to vote for RuPaul, you need to vote for The Bachelor. I'm like, I don't know who to vote for. So I vote for this.
John, did you ever think that you would be having a conversation debating RuPaul's Drag Race versus The Bachelor universe?
I didn't, but I love it. The previous poll that I ran, that poll's over. It was from about a week ago. For any of you wondering what poll I'm talking about, there was a poll that I did about a week ago with all of them. But now there's a new poll in there that is just Bachelorverse versus RuPaul's Drag Race. If you have an opinion, I would ask that you please make your opinion be heard. These are important. These are important issues, everyone.
Super important.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much.
Good night. I'm very excited for
John.
Have a good one.
Whoa. John, one thing.
Yeah.
Where are my kernels?
What do you mean, where are your kernels? Did you not harvest?
No, I got my harvested kernels. You owe me some kernels. Remember?
Apparently you lost a bet.
Against you and what?
What's
Didn't give
that?
me
Which one?
Yo,
Which one?
on God, I don't even
You
remember.
forgot.
All I remember was that you were supposed to give me some kernels one day, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I finally checked my Marcus. I was like, where are my kernels from John?
He told me I was getting some too, and I didn't.
John
Wait a
is
second.
really
John.
stingy with
Wait
the
a second.
kernels.
Wait, did I
Mm.
send you kernels?
Me, yeah, before you sent me kernels before, but not.
John?
What the heck was
This
it?
seems like a very. This seems like a very.
Oh, it was when I like brought up a good point, and you were like, "Oh yeah, let me give you some kernels." I was like, "Yeah, give me some kernels."
All right. I'll give you.
And you
I'll go
told
get,
me I was getting for
Whoa, what?
not to come.
forgetting what?
You guys are
Ah,
different.
yes. That I just haven't gotten to, Sherry. But yeah, I
I only
remember.
remember mine.
But yours I don't remember. But I'll give you some kernels. Or maybe I won't. I don't know.
John, thanks for
Oh, okay. The Florida has jumped out. Hello, Jonathan. Jesus.
All right, everybody. I really do have to get going. I love this, but
Thank you,
I'll
John.
see you guys.
Good
tomorrow.
night, everyone. See you tomorrow.